Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Garrett and I do makeup. And we are going to be talking about an intermediate color theory lesson, and we're going to learn how to mix our own skin tone using just the three primary colors. This is going to be a science makeup video. And if you haven't already seen it, please click on the little bubble up ahead. It's a little eye with a circle around it in one of these corners, and watch the basic color theory video. It's really important that you understand the fundamentals before you try to move forward. And in case you feel comfortable with makeup or you've already seen it, just a reminder, what we went over in that video was primary colors, secondary colors, and tertiary colors. How primaries mix into secondaries, and how primaries and secondaries mix into tertiaries. And we also talked about color math. How some colors have a heavier weight than others, like blue. It takes less blue to be mixed to make a color, so you need more yellow to compensate with the blue to mix into a green, that kind of thing. And we talked about the color math in the last video. And then we made a color wheel, which shows all the primary, secondaries, and tertiary colors, and it's all been playing back behind me right now. But it's also really important that you understand how these three colors actually make up every single color. So in this video, we're going to take it from the color wheel into our skin tones. And to do that, we're going to use a very important book, or one that I find very important. And it's called A Practical Treatise. And it was written by Charles Hayter, H-A-Y-T-E-R. If I mispronounced that, I apologize. But it is a very important color theory book. And when it comes to color theory, most people think it's very it's in stone. But in reality, there's a lot of different variations and methods in color theory, and there's a lot of very accepted premises widely across the spectrum of art to deal with color theory. The most basic is the color wheel, and this book in particular has a lot of different variations on what you can do with color, how color blends and mixes in its modalities. But I think it's a really great book. So we're going to be talking about a very specific part of the book. And I just also want to share with you guys this right now. If you look at this, this is the introduction to the book. And I have never read a better introduction to a book. So the book was written in 1826. And the introduction, the very first page of the book, goes like this. A new practical treatise on the three primary colors, assumed as a perfect system of rudimental information, simplifying their universal powers in regularly order of gradation into colorless darkness when equilaterally concentrated. Their variations form one color to another by their circular communion, their expansion by the power of light, and their effects under the united influence of light and shade, with some practical rules for reflections, and Sir Isaac Newton's distribution of the colors in The Rainbow by Charles Hayter, portrait painter, London, 1826. I have never read a better intro to a book ever, and I love it. Yeah, of course I butchered some words, but if you're trying to read on the camera and whatnot, it's hard. But it's a very important book, and in the book, if you see back here this chart, this is what we're going to be looking at. It is one of the many different variations on how color blend and how to blend color and this book, but it lends you to these three primary colors that assume, I would say, most skin tone palettes. You create olive, slate, and brown. And for the most part, even if you are really fair-skinned, you're just a really light shade of beige. And what is beige? Beige is a light shade of brown. So this is palette 1 from the book. And if you look at the very top, you have your three primary colors. You've got your red, your yellow, and your blue. And then they mix down this tree. And as they get to the very bottom, they become the three colors that I was talking about. They become olive, brown, and slate. And you might see this slate and wonder, that's not gray. Well, slate gray is a shade of slate. Slate actually comes in many different colors. Primarily, a lot of the slates have a more reddish, bluish tint. That's where the gray comes from. Gray is kind of a bluer side of slate. But slate has many different shades, especially if you look at tile and bathrooms and things. And in construction, you can see a varied variety of slate. It's not just one color. It is a stone that color has been made out of and named because of. So what we're going to do is there's a quick video here that's going to show us making this and how we blend it down. And it's going to be the very similar video to the color wheel. We're going to start with the primaries, and primaries blend to secondaries. Secondaries blend to tertiaries. However, here instead of blending into the tertiary, we skip straight blending primary to primary, which makes our secondaries. And then we blend secondary to secondary. And we make what we would call another form of tertiary color. So in the other color wheel, the tertiaries were the kind of intermittent colors in between. In this theory of color theory, a tertiary color is what happens when primary and primary mix. So you might have been asking in the last video, well, why is a primary and a secondary making a tertiary as opposed to a secondary and a secondary? Because a primary and a primary make a secondary, why wouldn't a secondary and a secondary make a tertiary? Well, it does, depending on the color theory we're talking about. And in this case, it's that case. Primary, primary, secondary. Secondary, secondary, tertiary. And the tertiary colors in this particular theory of color are going to be olive, brown, and slate, which happen to be the foundation, or at least the under subtones, for most of our skin tone color. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and move into this video of showing you how to lay out and make your own Palette 1 from the Charles Hayter Color Theory, a Practical Treatise book. And there's other things to look at in this book as well, but this is really the intermediate level, I feel, for makeup color, is being able to move from making color to now honing in on very, very specific colors, such as your skin tone foundation. And that is how you make Palette 1 from Charles Hayter's A New Practical Treatise. If you notice at the very bottom, my tertiaries were a little different than his, but that is primarily due to the fact that our initial primary colors, they had different color values. So my blue was a lot lighter than his, so when we got down to the very, very bottom, you could see that my slate wasn't as gray as his. It pulled more to the maroon side of the slate family. But that's what happens. The more accurate you can get a primary pigment, the more accurate everything will be from top to bottom. But that's kind of how you can see how to blend towards skin tone. And when you think about it, like olive skin tone, like I'm an olive tan, which comes from the Mediterranean. I'm Irish-Italian. I get a lot of that Italian olivey color in my skin tone. And then the brown, like no one is brown per se, but they have shades of it. You know, beige is a shade of brown, brown is a shade of brown, tan is a shade of brown. There's a lot of brown when it comes to skin tone. And then when you move over to the slate palette, it ties into like the African skin tones, and it also ties into like the Middle Eastern skin tones as well, because no one truly is a pure shade of like black, black, black. They are a varied shade of some kind of hue of the purples and the blues, which blend to a darker shade of color. And that's where it comes from. It comes from that slate side. So you can kind of see how the three different tertiary colors become very fundamental when it comes to making your primary pigments for your skin tone. So thanks guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe below. Even if you didn't like the video, leave a comment. Let me know. And let me know what you think I could do to improve it. I hope you stay tuned, and there's a lot more to come with these video series. Thanks guys. Have a wonderful day.